Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. A reminder, all of these messages that I give you on this program, these channels, will be available to everyone. They're available on my partner's website. Everything that is said in these channels will always be available for free. This month, we wish to start another series. And the series may sound a bit like one that we did in 2021. Back then, we gave you some explanations of the 4 faces of fear. And this month, we're going to do 4 fears as well. But these fears, I will say, are exceptionally practical. They're what those are experiencing right now. They're not as esoteric or generic as the ones we gave you before. They're closer to home. The one that I give first of these 4 is controversial. You may hear me and say, well, what's controversial about that? And others will say, I don't even believe you. How could you say these things? Because your consciousness and what you expect and what you think and what you've been taught will posture how you receive this particular fear, this particular message or these instructions. There is great sorrow, you might say, in some areas about how this planet has taught and perceived that which is the creative source. Who is God to you? What have you been told God is? Is that even the correct word? Is that which is the creator of everything that exists? Is it to be feared? Well, that's what you're taught. So the first fear that I want to tell you that people have that gets in the way of love and compassion and healing and life is the fear of God. What have you been told? First, I'm going to give you the scenario that I have given so many times before, but perhaps it's the first time you ever heard this. God does not have a human's consciousness. How do you define that which is the pure love that surrounds everything that is unconditional, that has so much love for you, that this God knows your name, that you are part of that creative source because your soul was made by God, and your soul is eternal, loved you so much that you are part of all of this, and then you come down to earth. And in a lower energy, for eons of time, human beings have decided that God is a human of some kind. And you would say, well, that's crazy. No humans ever said God was a human. Oh, yes, you did, humans. Every time you made a doctrine that made God angry and vindictive and had rules of punishment, that's a father, dear ones. That's a human father. That's not the creator of the universe. I think you got that wrong. And yet in the energy of creation, it starts with that which is kindergarten growing up into the first and second, third grades, and it's the same way with energy. So you might expect that kind of thing on the planet, but it never got better. And even right today, you'll go into places where they'll say, God is love, and God will punish you if you don't behave, if you don't do this and that. And by the way, you did something that you don't even know about thousands of years ago that you're being punished for. And it goes on, and it goes on, and goes on. Do you really think the creator of this universe the definition of love and compassion, can punish you. How convenient that those who will say you only have one life and you're living it, and it better be a good one, because at the end of that life, your soul will be tormented, they'll say. And there's plenty of pictures of that tormenting in the churches, so all the children can take a look at it. You know I'm right. I didn't make that up. Fear of God. You're programmed to fear God. That's a big one. What do you do about that? My partner had the same thing. So he started asking the questions that God answered immediately. But you have to be able to ask them. Dear God, dear Spirit, I believe in you. I was always told you were real. I love you. Is it possible that I was not told correctly? Is it possible there is a bigger story that humanity has just started to learn? Is it possible that you are so beautiful and so wondrous and so glorious? I don't need to worship this that is you, because it is part of my soul, that you are so beautiful and wondrous and good. You could never, ever punish or anger or any of the things that are human nature that are assigned to the creative source. Is it possible? And almost immediately, my partner received the love wash that I gave him, indicating there is something here. What if, dear ones, you were never, ever truly given the truth? And it's not a conspiracy. It's because that truth is now simply starting to come out in a much, much better light. That in an older energy, that's the best they had. The doctrines that you have perhaps learned and been programmed in, it's the best they had. You take a look at the ancients, even the Greeks, I've said this before, they made their gods dysfunctional, so they'd be just like you. This has precedent, if you've noticed it. Study it a bit, and you'll start to realize that the whole hierarchy of the idea of God doing this and that and requiring this and that and worshiping and then punishing and having your soul go to a horrible place with a fallen angel, that it's all allegory, it's story, and it's human story. It's not divine. It's not real. And all your life, that's what you've been told. So of course you would fear God. The creator of this universe, who loves you dearly, is not to be feared. The creator of this universe, who loves you beyond measure, is part of your soul. All of your energy is allied with you and is waiting to give you and teach you compassion, kindness, beauty. Let's do an exercise together. If you want to feel this, I invite you to put your hand on your heart. If you want to understand more, I will tell you that in this energy, answers come quick. Especially the questions about your own perception of your own divinity. Dear Spirit, dear God, I want to forget everything I've been told about you right now and wipe the slate clean and let you tell me who you are. Dear Spirit, show me the benevolence and the love that's there. Let it fill my heart with peace and understanding so that I'll understand totally that perhaps you're different. Perhaps you're not a father at all like a human is. Perhaps you are far beyond any consciousness that I can conceive. Perhaps you love me so much that I'll never be alone, that you'll always be with me, that there'll be guides and angels helping me through this life. Perhaps I'm here to learn that love, not to fear you. Show it to me. Show it to me. Dear Spirit, dear creative source, show me a bigger picture. One that nobody ever showed me. And do it in a way, not with pictures on the wall or in books, but in a way I can't miss it. Give me the synchronicity, perhaps, of others who will give me this same message in another way, or perhaps in my dreams, or perhaps right now. Fill me with such love that I will never fear that which is God again, ever. I will know you so well and love you so much and feel your compassion and kindness like I never have before, that I can just sit back and laugh at the allegory that I was told, like a child being told about a fairy tale that never exists, and when they grew up, it got corrected. It's time for the correction. There is no reason for any human ever to fear that which is the creative source, who would never punish you, who will never ever treat you any different than you would treat your children, dear ones, that you love so much. Be aware that this creative source that is responsible for everything you see as you look up in the sky, day and night, knows your name and wants to fill you completely with love. You are not a small dot on a moving planet. You are an eternal soul. And there are purposes and reasons for you and your consciousness and your life. And they ally totally with God's plan of love, compassion, and change on this earth. If you do this, you can start beaming with the light that is yours. And you'll never fear God again. Ever. I'm crying in love with this family, giving you truth today. Truth. I want you to feel the reality of it. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the 4th channel of the month, and in this we complete this particular series of what I have loosely called timing. We have done many channels on timing before. The ones this month we have said is a drilling down for some specifics of things that we have discussed in general before. There are so many layers when it comes to that which you call timing. The irony of that is that when you get to the other side of the veil, time is not what it is for you. Time is in a circle for us. And the circle becomes smaller and smaller until it becomes a dot, you might say. And though it still exists in some way, all time is in the now. So whereas you see it as a long, straight train track, and the train is you, you see a past, and you see a present, and you see a future. But let me ask you something. If that train that you see, that used to be in the past, and is traveling right now, and is going to the future, if you see that in your mind as a straight track, would you be aware that there is no now, because that train of yours is always moving from the past to the future? It never stops. So therefore, you have to redefine the now. The now is similar to us, always in motion, moving from one state to another. If you take that train that is a straight track and you move it into a circle and you make it smaller and smaller, then the train simply goes around the same circle. That is as an explanation of how we see you and how time works on this side of the veil. There is really no time. We see what you think is the past, and because it is in your Akash, you're using it, and therefore it is in the now. Are you going to use that for the future? The answer is yes, and more things that you are learning every moment in the now. Therefore, that future is also part of the now, on that train that's in a little circle. I show you these things, even if you don't understand them, to set up a premise of a question. And the premise of the question is that you are far more powerful than you think. And the question is about reincarnation. Now, we have talked about reincarnation many, many times, and even the timing of it. Now, this is a little more specific, where it starts to ask a question. And here it would be, Dear Kryon, is it possible that we plan our future incarnations past just who were going to be our parents? That we actually plan on perhaps where we're going to be, or what might even be what we're going to do, or perhaps what will happen. Now you get into some very interesting esoteric questions. You have free choice. This also goes into that which we would talk about, contracts, plans. Every single one who would teach you, who has been around and has the wisdom of the karmic, akashic, and other energies regarding past and future lives, will tell you something. This contract you feel you have, or this plan you feel you have, has come right from the past. It's you before you got here planning your life. So that particular question is already answered in some way. But how specific can it be? Now, regarding those contracts and plans, almost everyone will agree who teaches the Akashic records that these contracts or plans are simply the beginning. That when you get to the planet and you start on these things that you intrinsically feel you're supposed to do and that you begin with, because of the energy on the planet and your free choice, you can change them anytime. I've even said they're written in invisible ink. So you may feel you're supposed to do something, but what if something better because of the energy comes along? Does that mean you have to stick with the old plan or the old energy? Or can you move that contract doing something completely different and feel good about it? The answer is yes. That is always, always your choice. So planning and contracts and all these linear things you think you do always has the ability to change them. But that doesn't answer the question. Dear Kryon, how specific is it? Can we plan the future? Let's talk about it. This is something that the ancients have done for a very long time. I want you to examine this and tell me how you feel about it. Is it real or not? There are certain belief systems on the planet. In fact, one that is the original one. And it measures its leaders and counts on a reincarnation in order to have the wisdom continue for its teaching. And what I mean by that is that the leaders, perhaps, of this particular belief system know who they're going to be in the next life. They know their gender, where they will be. And then the puzzle is to find them so they can continue on teaching. So they fully recognize this idea of a school of earth. But more than that, they see the wisdom of a shaman who is then continuing on, and they look for them in the next life. And in this life, that particular leader or shaman will say, look here in this city at this time, for this gender at this age, and that will be me. I'm coming back. And I will give you signs that I am me. How about that? So not only do you have a plan, You can tell people what you're going to do and where to look. This is not old news. Let's take a look at the record of how that's worked. Well, this particular belief system takes that individual when they're very young, 6 to 10 years old, finds them as they're supposed to, and then they'll train them. There has to be an intelligence there because they will send them overseas, so they will learn multiple language. They'll come back. They'll send them to high educational schools so that they will be wise and educated. And every time that has happened, those individuals have taken on that task and been very good at it, like they simply were remembering. What are the odds that if this was random, that you would have somebody who could do that? And that's what I want to show you. It works. Other belief systems that are similar to that have chosen the Rinpoches in the same way. They go to the village and they look for the children who will reincarnate Rinpoches. Those are leaders. And they train them and they teach them in the same way. This is a system of planned reincarnation, and it works. So let's go back to the question. How specific does it get? And the answer is as specific as you want. Dear one, old soul, listen to me. We have now new tools of working with the soul in this new energy that mimics even what the shamans were able to do so long ago. I would like to tell you that your intuition right now, as you live here, may very well come alive with what you may do next. And what happens to you this time, when you go to the other side of the veil, will then temper what you do the next time. It's starting to be a lot clearer for many who say, I'm going to come back and I want to be in this culture or that culture, I want to do this and that. And that goes into the field, into that Akashic planning. It's almost like you are, again, giving a menu to what you will do next time. The gender you will be, where you will be, and what you might accomplish. And it could even be continuing what you're doing now. There have been so many cases where those creatives have done this, especially those in music, where they will come back into the planet and continue where they were. And someone will look at their work and their compositions and say, that looks a lot like an old master. You have the same phrases, you're working the same way. And they may wink at you and say, well, that's how I feel too. Great artists will come back and continue being great artists. Some will paint in the same way they painted before. This has always been the case. Some energies, especially those of creative ones and love, compassion, carry on to the next. Sometimes shamans will come back as shamans. It's more than that. Can you, as you sit there today, understand and think about the continuation after you're gone? What a concept. There are those who will roll their eyes and say, well, Kryon, now you've gone a little too far. And I will tell you, just look at what has already been accomplished and what has already been done for hundreds of years in those places that do them and believe in them. That is also your gift. Now, in the circle of 12 tonight, I'm going to go further, much further, and I'm going to ask a question. Can you see the future of your own incarnation next time, and what you might do, and what your task might be? Not the one you plan. Can you actually see yourself doing it? That would then perhaps even void out, can you control the future or not? We're going to discuss that in just a little while for the Circle of 12, for the members. Everyone can hear these channelings. They are complete as they are. Sometimes we'll give a little more into the Circle of 12. And that's why it exists, to help you understand yourself and your healing and how magnificent you are. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Following up on my partner's answer and the meditation you just heard, there are those who would wring their hands and say, I see the evil around me or in humanity. How can we fight the darkness? The answer I have always given, dear ones, is you never have to fight the darkness. All you have to do is create light. That's all. The darkness cannot exist when light is there. It cannot. And in that, we present yet again the idea that the light around you that you create yourself is far, far more effective than you think. Instead of trying to fight that which is dark, creating light almost does it for you. And the darkness starts to then diminish by itself. We're doing a series of 4 channelings this month. And if you could title them, they're all about timing. So far we have given you 2 examples of timing in 2 categories, and this is the 3rd. And this one is for you. It's about you in your life and timing that is critical and important for you. Now, this particular message has been taught by my partner for years. But he and others are aware that the messages that he teaches sometimes have not been seen by the many who are starting to then come online, as they say, wake up to grander truths, as they say, and perhaps tune in to this particular message. So we're going to give it to you again. And I want to make sure you truly hear this, because it is so unusual and different from what you expect. The subject is the timing of what you have that's spiritual. So many of you listening to my voice right now, watching this program, perhaps either live or in a replay, have had inklings, intuitions, even direct messages from Spirit about your life, or perhaps what you were supposed to do in the future, or what you're supposed to create. And you have all along felt that perhaps this was it. Time to write a book, perhaps. Time to open some kind of spiritual center or a healing practice, perhaps. And in this new energy, there is a grander kind of communication. And what I mean by that, you might have had an intuition. Yes, I've always wanted to do this, or yes, this is what I know that I'm here for. And then in this new energy, that will be enhanced, almost as though you're getting a direct message from Spirit. Yes, this is what you're to do. And if you have been so fortunate to feel this in such a way that you now understand, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do, what is next for you? Well, the answer for you is obvious. You do it. And so for those of you who perhaps got a message to start a healing center or some other program or an online program of something, you begin it. And you say, well, how can I start, or what can I do, or this or that? And perhaps if it's ambitious, you have to rent something or go someplace or start whatever it is. And it doesn't work. Now, there are so many of you who've had this happen in an older energy. And sometimes in that older energy, it comes to you in a way that is so profoundly there. And so in that energy, you've actually tried it, and you started. But you reached a block here and there, and the people weren't there or right for you, or the funding wasn't right for you, or didn't come, or you started it on your own and tried to fund it yourself, and it didn't work. And that's even worse, because that then, of course, is a scar It's a scar on that which you think is your spiritual goal. You tried it, it didn't work, even though you got a message that it was supposed to. So what happens next? Let's just say that there are some of you listening right now who had a big message in the past to do something, and you tried it and it didn't work. I have a message for all of you. And this is the message. Are you ready? Who said you were to do it now? And the answer you would have, is, of course I'm supposed to do it now. And this is where it gets good, because here is where your linearity and your humanness get in the way of spiritual messages. In your life, dear ones, any authority figure, whether it was in school, or whether it was home, or whether it was your boss at work, when they said, I want you to do this, they meant when? And the answer is now. But when Spirit shows you something, it's not that way. Here is the message I really, truly want to get across to you today about timing for these things for yourself. And here's the message. The first step is you receive confirmation, or you start to collect that which your intuition says is what you're supposed to do. And collect it meaning that you start finding the ideas that will go into it and what you might do to make it and accomplish it. But you don't actually do it until the timing is right. Now, for those of you who tried something when you thought the timing was right in a past energy and it didn't work, it's harder for you to do it again because you already think you failed. How linear of you. All you did was you did it at the wrong time. Well, then the next question is, how do I know the right time? And the answer is really good. It will be shown to you. There will be no question. When it's right, somebody will come up to you, like maybe a year later. You're supposed to build a healing center. You got all ready to go, perhaps, and nothing fall into place. And so now you're sitting there saying, I failed. And a year later, somebody comes up to you and says, I'd like to build a healing center with you, and I've got all the resources. And you go, yes, this would be a good thing, because you realize you should have waited. There are many of these things that we present to you slowly. We give you confirmation, and Spirit loves you so much that it's not going to let you sit and wallow in wonder. When you have something really good, light to spread to this planet, programs that'll work, classes to do, books to write, healing centers to build. And that will then be given to you as an aha and a yes, and this is why you're here, dear one. And then we're saying, stop and wait. Wait for the right things to come along, and they will. They will. Because it was given to you for that reason, not so you can sit there and wonder if you failed. Spirit loves you enough to go in the second round with you, to show you the ones that you perhaps were waiting for, or the resources that perhaps you were waiting for. Or perhaps, even in the case of my partner, the information that was missing, that now would be given to you, that completes the puzzle. So again, we tell you, you have a very linear idea of when, and that has to do with timing. Spirit loves you enough to give you information in advance for you to look at and let mature and grow upon. And then when the timing is right, to activate that which you knew you came for. Does that make sense to you, dear ones? That there would be that much love. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't have to happen all at once. It's up to you completely. So the next time you get this wonderful idea, or perhaps you're shown something that you truly are here to do, and you say, I knew it. Don't then go off and do it immediately. Stop for a moment and say, is it complete? Is it ready? Do I have the resources? And those perhaps I'm supposed to meet who will then complete the picture. And if it doesn't feel right, then wait. And know it's okay to wait. And nothing will be harmed in waiting for the right things at the right time. Timing is the key, dear ones. And we are with you in the timing. We'll supply you with what you need in order to accomplish those things that you came for. It's a great message about timing that's personal, isn't it? There's more. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. You talk about the future, or perhaps the future self. Let's go back in time. Not a lot, just a little. And talk about that which took place in what we call the precession of the equinoxes, or more accurately, the middle of the precession of equinoxes, 2012, the end of that year. In astronomy, that was the place when this wobble of the earth was at its center point of its center wobble. And that was targeted as the time of new calendars by the indigenous. It was also the time we told you a shift was coming. Channeling for the last 8 years has been get ready for the shift. We are in the shift. There's more to come. One channeling, especially, and in appropriateness, a teaching of my partner was all about how you deal with change in the shift. Now, most of you felt that this new energy was coming and it would be very slow. And in this, you would have a chance to see a new normal. And we used the words new normal over and over long before they were on your news. So we were ready for something that you were not. And that would be some kind of thing that you would create as human beings that would cause a shift then to be more radical for you than you expected. COVID was right on time, you might say, for now you are indeed in something that is rewriting your normal. Now here is the subject of this channel: the light worker reaction to the shift. Light workers' reaction to the shift. How were you doing up until COVID? Were you ready for it? Were you practicing any kind of new energy? Were you changing your lives in any way? Now, things were already starting to change in consciousness. You had a new pope. You had the Me Too movement. You had all manner of things that were starting to rewrite a paradigm of the past. You see that. It was already in progress. And some of you were saying, well, this is the new normal, and we're getting ready for a higher consciousness on this planet. And that higher consciousness would slowly then bring us into what has been described as a high consciousness for humanity. And then you got COVID. Now, where am I going with this? I'm going to ask you, Lightworker, pointedly, how you're doing with that which is the shift. How are you doing with the new normal? Right now, it continues as I channel this. We are in a month in 2022 where you still have this planet dealing with that which is lockdowns, mandates, demonstrations, unhappiness, and a polarized population of those that disagree and agree what the governments are doing, and it's universal. There has never been anything like this that affected the entire planet. There have been governments that did things, and countries who then reacted. There have been demonstrations all along, forever, really. But this is the first time you have seen a world problem. Dear ones, the shift is a world issue. Are you beginning to see how this is right on time? The planet is right now where it has to make decisions, but in the process of making decisions, there is polarity. That polarity is who is right, who is wrong, especially then, perhaps, about the mandates and the virus and all, and you may say, well, I have my opinion, but they are wrong over there. They're not doing it right, and they're perhaps endangering others or not, and you may go back and forth. Let me ask you, can you look at the ones you don't agree with and say, they are also light workers and I love them dearly? Or not? How are you doing, light worker, with the shift? These things that are being presented right now on this planet are truly the litmus test of a light worker. And rather than being caught up in all that it is or is not, the right or the wrong, or the inconvenience or the not inconvenience, this is the time, dear ones, for you to start taking action that only light workers know how to do. My partner said it earlier, even on this program. Now you know, before this ever took place, now you know that your compassion and your love is an energy that can be targeted to other places. It's energy. Your consciousness, that is how you think, is actually creating a patterned, why do we call it a patterned missile that has a patterning of love or compassion that can literally be sent someplace. And when it gets there, it explodes in love and in compassion, with hearts coming all out of it, and it falls there and lands gently, perhaps, upon others who need that. What a visualization. What a visualization. That you would be able to target compassion and love. And maybe it's not from one country to another. Maybe it's across the street. Maybe it's across the room. Did you think about that? The next time you feel that perhaps you're getting excited about what you believe, or perhaps angry about the fact that others don't believe what you believe, what are you going to do there? Are you going to simply stew in your own opinion? Or perhaps you'd have the maturity and the wisdom and perhaps even the mastery to include with all that is a love missile. No better way of saying it, where you're targeting a compassion and love and sending it over, perhaps across the room, perhaps across the table, to someone who may not agree with you at all. And it doesn't change their mind or change your mind, but it says, I am kind. That's what I feel, you might say. I might not agree, but I am kind in my countenance of all of this. I know how to be kind to those I disagree with. And I'll tell you what happens when you are. They feel it. How could they not? You just sent them a compassion love missile. They do feel it. And that's the other part of this equation. They're going to send a love missile back. This is the way it works. This is the way it works. Now, we have talked about this even in healing, that when you start a process of the ability to heal someone else, this comes back at you. There is a reciprocal. There's always a yin and yang. Physics operates in pairs. All energy of physics operates in pairs. And so does healing, and so does compassion, and so does love, because it's energy. So the more you send, it all comes back in a certain way. You may not have it verbalized back to you, but I'll tell you that the consciousness of the other knows what you're doing, knows what you're doing, and you're doing it in love. How are you doing so far, dear ones, dear light worker? Because this is the change. This is the new normal. It's here. You might say, well, is it always going to be this way? Of course not. These are the tests. And they're not the tests of a virus. And they're not the tests of your health. These are the tests of your consciousness. Are you going to get through this? And you can look backwards and say, I did it with wisdom as best I could. I did it with whatever I could say is my mastery. I did it with kindness, and I did it with love. Or you can look backwards and say, I knew they were wrong. You look backwards in anger and say, well, I'm glad we got through that. You're going to be in it for a while, let me tell you. It hasn't reached its climax yet, and it will, and you'll know when it does. Meanwhile, you have a wonderful set of opportunities. Now, for those who are listening and perhaps visualizing and perhaps even seeing this in the future, and this is now old news, you're going to have something too. You'll always have something to test you into whether you're going to use your mastery and your light or you're not. Dear ones, the more light workers are able to do this, the faster the consciousness of this planet will raise to the point where you don't have to practice anymore. It's just automatic. That you will look for kindness in others as the litmus test to see if you want to put them in office, perhaps. Or you want to employ them, perhaps. Or you want to be your partner, perhaps, in anything. You will look for mastery and kindness and maturity. And it won't matter what they believe. There'll always be a diversion from what you think you believe to somebody else. A discrepancy, perhaps, in your perception and their perception. There'll always be that. That's human nature. It's how you treat it. It's where mastery starts to come in. How you doing? These are the testing times, dear ones. This is where a light worker shows they're a light worker. These are the times for more compassion, kindness, and love than in the last 8 years, in the last 7 years, in the last 6 years. This is the time. How you doing? I am crying in love with all of you. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This entire month, we are examining a very, very large subject. It's the love connection. That connection, dear ones, is so profound. It goes so many ways. We've told you that the energy which you call love is far larger than you understand or believe. So many of you can see that, understand that. But until you've experienced this love from Spirit, this love from your guides, as we've discussed, and all of these things, until you've truly experienced this, it's difficult to talk about. There are so many things that I could bring to you that tell you about the beauty that is there, almost for the taking. We told you last week that love is intrinsically there. It is built in and comes from the other side of the veil. That when you arrive on this planet, the image that you are of the Creator is love. And then the humanness starts to kick in, depending upon what you've been told, what your parents show you, the amount of love and care that you're given, all part of that growing up process that sometimes takes that essence away from its majesty. Most humans are learning it again in certain ways. This program is designed for that, a safe place for you to be in and learn what that truly might mean from Spirit. Again, as you drop into your heart, what is it that is there that perhaps is grander than anyone told you? Or perhaps there's an experience that will fill up that part of your body that needs and craves it so much to say, I want it all. I want it all. A month and a week or so ago, I gave a channeling in that wonderful place in Gaia called Monument Valley. Beautiful to look at, serene to be in. A place where when the wind stops, during the day or the night, sometimes you hear nothing. A silence that is so compelling that it draws you into the majesty of the earth. It's precious land, it's sacred land. It's part of the Navajo land. It's the Navajo Nation, and a place that we go to often now. But I gave this channeling in that pristine place, and I want to share it with you and review it with you. Even though this channeling is currently now available for all, in a place where this is free for all, in social media, in a website, in YouTube, perhaps even other places eventually. I want you to hear that which I said. And I want you to ponder the age that you're in and the shift that is beginning. You see, there's another love. There is a great missing piece that so few have truly found. I know who's listening, dear ones. There's an expression, preaching to the choir. I may be telling you what you already know, but you're not the only ones to find this channeling. For this will also be all over for those to hear for free. The missing piece. If you take a look at the doctrines of the planet, the ones in the spiritual systems of the planet, there's a missing piece. And that missing piece is so obvious, and yet in your modern times, somehow you've cast it aside. I spoke back then about the experiences that my partner has had on tours. And one of the biggest ones that sticks in his mind is where the shaman reaches down, picks up a handful of soil, holds it to his lips, and smiles. And when my partner asked him, "Why have you done that?" he said, "I have just been in touch with all my ancestors. For they are in the soil of the earth, all of them." I remembered even in my scripture that I learned as a child, dust to dust. My partner then realized how profound that truly was. The idea of the ancestors being in the planet is not what you were told, and yet they are. Multidimensionally, that soul energy that you have goes so many places when you're not here. The wisdom, the crystalline grid, all of the things that we've talked about that are part of this earth and this planet are built to enhance you. This planet knows who you are. It truly does. It's a sentient knowing. And most of the doctrines of this earth, right now, of this planet, of all of your cultures and societies, almost all that have the doctrines, never mention it, not one time. What if, dear ones, there was a great and grand love that pours from the earth, from so many sources? The Creator of all things made this planet specifically for you, designed it so that it's self-sustaining with water for you, so it tilts on an axis for your seasons, the engine of hot and cold for you. All of that on purpose, like no other planets, even in your solar system, designed for you. If you think about it, it was not an accident. This was a design so that when you arrived, it would not only be prepared, but there would be an energy of this planet for you to sense. And what is that energy? Go ask a tree hugger. Does the earth have a message? And that tree hugger will come back to you and say, Every time I hug earth, there's bliss. I smile. I'm overwhelmed with the energy it has for me. What if we have missed this, the we being, all of those on this planet who wish to be spiritual and connected? And there's this feeling that when you pass from this place, the souls go high up in the sky to some other place it's unreachable. What if instead it goes everywhere? What if all of your ancestors, the wise ones and not the wise ones, but all of them, when they pass over, take that mind of God and become their original soul beings? And that's what's in the planet as well. Have you ever thought of what I told you last week? The cave of creation that we have described so often to you is within the planet. Isn't that odd? That your Akashic record would be in Earth. Why isn't it somewhere in the sky, as you might say? That's a metaphor for not being here. That's a metaphor for perhaps being in heaven or wherever else that you might think. But it isn't. It's here. There are 3 places we have described that contain your Akashic record, and 2 of them are on the planet, and 1 of them is not. That ought to tell you a lot about what is in the planet. All that ever was and the consciousnesses that ever were are still in this planet. I described the crystalline grid so many times in past channels. It's a grid that's designed to feel human emotion. It was actually designed for you so that there would be places that you could go and feel past experiences that were wonderful. That you could know from the planet, perhaps, a love that you thought you only got then from the sky. That is a metaphor for the love of God. It's everywhere. There is so much of it. Have you heard the expression, as above, so below? That would mean that it comes from both sides. That the love of spirit, that which you call God, that eternal source, that beauty, is also available, pouring from your planet. There are so many who have trouble with this. They would say, "Dear Kryon, I know you've said that before, but I've never really been able to feel it." Let me ask you, how do you attempt to feel it? There's a great way. It's a simple way. I tell you, whether it's night or day, take off your shoes. And if you live in a place where there is not a forest or Gaia, then go to a place where there is. Almost all of you have some places that are parks or whatever. Take off your shoes. Take off your socks. Put your foot in the soil, the grass, whatever. And connect consciously to the earth. At this particular time, there's intent, there's grounding. And then listen, not for words. Listen for love. Kryon, how do I listen for love? Dear ones, don't make it complicated. Don't make it complicated. If love is in the air, it affects you. You hear it, you feel it, you smell it, you taste it. I've just given you full body experience for the love of earth. It will embrace you. And the thing it may say to you is this: finally, you found me. There is so much for you, for all of you, that perhaps you have not taken advantage of in the area of love. It comes from so many sources, including right next to you, the guides with you, the image that you were created in, and now even the earth. You're surrounded with it. There's no excuse. Listen, truly, there's no excuse for being a victim when there is so much that is trying to get through to you. Why don't you take my hand? Have you heard that before? As you cross into your soul, Take my hand and feel the love that is all around you, pouring into you, that will completely and totally eliminate all of that which doesn't belong in the light. I am Kryon, in love with humanity. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the first channeling of this month. There will be 4, just like always. And in this, we title them. These 4 are going to be the love connection. Dear ones, I cannot speak too much about something that is the core, the seed of the greatest energy that exists. And that is that which comes from the Creator. We'll say this again, perhaps in another channel, but this great love is the image you hear that you are made of. Made in the image of the Creator, and that image is love. And so each one of these channels will feature an attribute of love. All 4 channels available to everyone for free on my partner's website. We're going to start this one with the love from those that you don't see, or those that you think perhaps are even not there, depending upon what you have been told in this culture, depending upon the doctrine that you've learned, pretending perhaps that they're there or not there. What do you think of guides and angels? What do you think of the invisible ones? What do you think of that which some say you're foolish to think beyond yourself, or that you're independent? No one's going to help you. Have you been told that? The opposite is true, and it's true in a manner and an energy that is overwhelming in its truth and its beauty. Dear ones, here is the truth. You don't come here alone, ever. No human comes alone. The soul is something that is a beautiful vehicle that comes with you. It does not stay on the other side of the veil, dear ones. This multidimensionality of your soul is right now sitting in the chair that you are watching this in. It is with you. Now, perhaps that is a little less linear than you wanted to hear, but it's true. And in this soul is you in many forms. That's the multidimensional you. The yous that have been in the past lives that somehow still exist with you. A consciousness that never goes away that is you. And that which we have talked about before, a guide set which comes in with you and is the same every single lifetime. The same guides, the same angelic presence is with you. Some have felt, well, it's an extension of me. You're a bit right about that. They feel like you. They're part of the higher self that you say is you. You cannot separate these things into linear groups and faces and numbers. These belong to you in a multidimensional state which don't have singularity or shapes or faces or numbers, and yet it feels like it. It feels like it because they are so personal. I want to tell anyone watching, this is the first time you've heard of this. I would love for you to sit alone tonight and just call them in. If you're there, show me. Go ahead. And don't be surprised if you allow it and if you mean it when you say it, that there might be some tingling that goes on. And that is a yes. That cause and effect relationship of you opening your heart and asking that question is one of the most beautiful things a human can do. I want you to understand that as they come in with you, there is a tremendous love they bring. The love for you. the soul that you are, the human being in the expression that you are. Their purpose is to help you. That is why they are called guides. They are angelic. You don't see them. You feel them. And in their feeling, they also shape your reality if you let them. They're the ones who are the way showers. They're the ones who will help you to go to the right place at the right time or make decisions through intuition that they will influence, that says this door, not that door. They're the ones that are in the field with you that we have spoken of before. They keep you out of chance, dear ones. There are those who still say, I'm in a turkey shoot, as they say in my partner's country. That is, I'm rolling the dice every day I step out of the house and anything could happen to me. Not if you're in touch with your guides. Not if you understand the purpose of angelic purpose, the reason you're here. These guides are the ones that often keep you safe. But not unless you acknowledge that it's possible or that they're there. Why is that, Kryon? Why do we have to do things in order to activate, if you want to say that, the guides? And here's the answer. You have free choice not to. Did you hear that? All your life, if you want to ignore all of them and do your best, when you come back across the veil, we're going to have the same party for you as the one who engaged them when they were 4. 4 years old. Do you hear that? That's no judgment. There is no judgment. But there is opportunity. And that is for those who want to understand that there is love when you come here. And they come with you. I want to paint another picture. I've done it so often before. I want to paint a picture. Here you are on this planet, doing the best you can to survive. Trying your best, perhaps, to be a compassionate individual. Trying to dodge that which you call chance. Sometimes it makes you feel like you're a victim of the energy all around you because perhaps things don't go well. And here are guides who are sitting, looking at you, doing nothing. Because you've never greeted them. You've never said thank you. You've never said, I want you to help guide me. I want you to push my intuition. I want you to help me listen. You've never done it. Perhaps because you've been told they don't exist, or that's silly, or that you have to trust in something else, or perhaps there's a prophet, or perhaps you've been told you can't even talk to God. Somebody else has to do it for you. All of those things get in the way of this perception that you have come in with divinity. But because you have free choice, nothing's going to happen until you activate that. Activating means that you sit again and say, I want you in my life. You're real. I believe it. Thank you for loving me. Can you imagine the love they have for you to watch you flail around, believe what you want to, and all that time, figuratively, they have their hand out saying, take my hand, just do it. Don't you feel us? Don't you understand? Don't believe anyone else but your own core energy. Drop into your heart and see if what you've been told is right, and we will come in if you wish. All your life, they may sit there with their hand out, perhaps to your last breath. That's how much they love you. They never give up. They never give up. They're always there because that's why they're with you. They come with you. Did you know that there's a meeting between all of you before you step into the wind of birth and you come here that says, this time, please, feel us. Don't believe everything you're told. Follow your heart. Believe us. And let us then help guide all the things to take you into the good places where there are no potholes. And intuition will help you meet the right partners and people so there'll be a lot less of the issues that perhaps you had the last lifetime. Let this be a lifetime of beauty, no betrayal, of compassion and love and good things. That's why they're here. There's so much love. Your guides, your angels are real. They even have your name on them, the name we sing in light that you have. They belong to you. There is a system, dear ones, of love. There is a connection with the love of the Creator, and part of it comes in with you, always with you, waiting for you to acknowledge it so you can move on into a divine reality that you deserve as your lineage of an old soul. I wouldn't tell you these things unless they were real. There's no reason to sell you something when you already have it. I am just telling you to take it. See for yourself if it's real or not. Open that beautiful, beautiful area that will flow into that which is your mind and your heart with a grander truth, perhaps, than you've ever been told. That's why I'm here. I'm here to give you information, perhaps that you've not heard before, that is for you, that is loving, very loving. It's not a doctrine we're asking you to follow. It's love we're asking you to follow, the love of God. I'm crying in love with humanity, continuing to give these lessons so that some of you will have a life change and understand that you're always loved and you're never alone. And so it is.